Hey my crafty creatures, thank you for tuning into this video. So for this video, I want to make something for DragonCon. And DragonCon is next week, and I'm giving myself about 5 to 6 days to get this done. I have a drawing that I have kind of mocked up the idea that I want, and I've taken two things that I found on Pinterest, and I'm kind of combining them and adding some style details that I personally want in there. But the fabric I'm using is going to be a Mandalorian fabric, and if I have the time, I want to make a skirt as well to go with it. Hopefully I'll have time for that, and I'm not even sure what I want that to be. I'm pretty sure I just want it to be like a simple like circle skirt with a waistband, but who knows what it might end up being in the end. But whatever it is, I want it to be like really simple and easy to wear for when I go. So with that said, I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of the drawing that I have and explain a little bit of what I have going on in there. Okay, so when it comes to the design, I wanted this to have a collar and a little bit of a corset feel to it. So I wanted to make sure I had like some princess seams. I do want to have a zipper in the front, and with that zipper, I want to have the style details like where the princess seams are. I want that to be a lace up. The only, I think, like combined seam I want to have is the side seams, and then have some lacing on both the back and front of it. I want the style lines to kind of come to the point right on the stomach, so the rest of it will be just straight back across the back side of the body. As far as anything else, I think that's it. I just want most of the detailing being the lacing and the collar, and then of course relying on the fabric itself. With that being said, I do want to try to make this as sturdy as possible. I am using a cotton fabric, so I will be lining that with interfacing, and then I think I'm also going to do an inner lining as well, and I'm just going to use some type of cotton fabric that I have already and kind of keep it light to medium weight because I don't want to add too much structure to it. And then I will be using the zip ties to do the boning in there. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to have the boning like sit and line up, if it's just going to be like the lower half or if it's going to go all the way through. But I'm going to try to decide on all of that in the mock-up phase, and hopefully come up with something that's going to work really well with the design. All right, so now that I have the design in mind, I'm going to go ahead and bring out my mannequin and try to mock up everything so that I can get an idea of like where the style lines will end up, and then create that mock-up and try it on and see if I need to make any adjustments from there. All right, let's get started, guys. All right, so I have my mannequin set up, and I have some muslin fabric that I'm just going to be using to make my pattern with. And I am going to try to be mindful of making sure that this neck isn't too small. So I want to make sure that I bring it out far enough. And then I want to transfer my style lines from the drawing that I did, and I'll be referring back and forth to that so that I make sure that I get the lines roughly where I want them to be, and then from there I'll make my mock-up and then see if I need to make any more adjustments from there so that I can get everything aligned the way I want it to. Okay, so I've pinned this together and I'm trying it on to kind of see if everything lines up good. And I think it's at a good point right now. So I'm going to take this and do a paper pattern of this and just straighten up the lines and everything like that. So I think it's good. And then I'm going to be adding like my seam allowance and everything like that. And then I can do my first mock-up to actually see if this fits the way I want to. I will go ahead and do some maybe like a zipper in the front, and then the side probably just kind of pin it together. I want it to be a little bit smaller when I pin it That way, when I do the lacing, it actually can cinch it in a little bit. So hopefully this goes correctly. And now I'm about to head over to my to my desk so that I can actually draw everything out. All right, guys, so it has been a full day since I last was on here. I made sure I drew out all of the pattern pieces, and then I started on my mock-up, which was like a full day of just doing that. I was sewing all the pieces together and trying to figure out how all the pieces went together, so that I could actually do the mock-up so that I could actually wear it. And this is what I have so far. So everything's pretty much good on it as far as like the shape and everything. There were some minor changes where I needed to make. I'm going to try this on for you guys so you can kind of see, and I can kind of show you what those changes were. All right, so I have it on now, and the way it is now, it's like it just fits, which I don't want it to just fit. I want it to be able to cinch in. So there's going to be some spots where I need to take it in. So right here, I'm going to take this seam in. I'm also going to take this top area in. That way that seam comes more like this. So that it comes more like this instead of where it's sitting. I'm getting a little bit of gaping there. So I want to adjust that, but everything's lining up pretty good. I just want to take some space from here, and then I want to take some space from here as well. But the back is good, and the front is pretty much good. It's lining up the way I wanted to. I wanted to have this part lace up, but the way it laces up, it wasn't going to work. So I had to kind of adjust that so that it fits a little bit differently. So I decided to sew these seams up, and then I'll put some boning right here, and I'm going to put some boning here as well, just to keep everything straight. The zipper, like, this is not the zipper I'm using. I actually went to the store and got the zipper that I want. So that's going to be a lot easier. I feel like where this hits is a good point. I could do it just like a little bit lower, which with the zipper, it probably will end up that way. So I have that. The collar seems to be good for the most part. It, like in the back, it goes a little bit lower than I would want it to, but it's not enough for me to want to go and just like readjust that whole part. So I think it's still pretty good. It sits up the way I want it to. I may even add like a little something here just to bring it a little closer together. Who knows? I'm not that worried about it, but I think all of this stuff is pretty much good to go. I'm going to make those adjustments on my pattern pieces and redo those just so that I have those and they're marked out. And I will show you those in a second just so you can kind of see what those pattern pieces look like. But I think everything is coming out pretty good. Aside from this just not being tight enough, everything came out pretty good. I'm glad that that first pattern like drafting actually went really well. So with that said, let's move on to the next part. All right, so now I have all of my pattern pieces completed. I think they're at a good point where they're going to line up the way I need them to. I ended up with 6 pieces. It's going to be a lining fabric and then the fashion fabric. I am going to do interfacing to all of these pieces. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do. I decided not to go with the inner lining, at least for this one. If I make it again, I probably will add that in there just so I can have a little more structure to it. But this one, I want to be a little more lightweight because of the fact that it's still summer. And I want to be able to wear this and not feel too hot in it. So hopefully those pieces will just come out the way I want them to. Okay, so once again, I have forgotten to make sure that my mic was on while I was recording, and I just recorded this whole long part without actually having any sound for it. So right now I have sewn together all of my parts, and I am adding the collar to both the lining and the fashion fabric. So right now you just see me pinning that together, and then I already have the zipper attached to both the fashion fabric on either side. So now I'm just attaching that so that I can sew the linings together, and then I can actually add the boning in. Alright guys, so I am almost done with this. I've got the zipper in, I've got the channels for the boning. I just need to add that in there. And then the last thing I need to do is add the armholes and then add the eyelets so that I can actually lace it up. And then I'll be completely finished and you guys can see the final results. And I'm so excited about this. I've been trying it on and it fits pretty well, so I'm excited about this. So let me get that finished and I'll show you all the final result. So for the boning, I am using zip ties for this, and I would not suggest this if you want it to be something that you're going to wear pretty often, because the zip ties are just not going to be strong enough to hold up to multiple wears. Since this is something that I know I'm only going to wear maybe once a year, twice if that, I am okay with using just like the plastic boning, and it won't hold up to putting up a lot of heat to it. So just be mindful of that. But I am cutting these down to size, making sure that I leave at least ½ an inch on either side so that I don't end up like sewing over the boning when I actually sew everything up. Alright guys, so I have finally finished it and I am so glad the way it came out. There are a few things that I did have an issue with, and that's mainly here in the collar. When I was doing my mock-up, I couldn't tell that this part was a bit looser than the rest. So I think the only thing I really would have needed is to just like shorten this a little bit, and then it would have laid the way I intended it to. But aside from that, it came out really good and it's going to be perfect. Now I just have to make the skirt that I want to wear with it, and I'm just going to do that separate and kind of show you guys what it looks like afterwards. But I'm excited to wear this for Dragon Con, and I hope you guys liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.